and I said, I think he shot a cop. Can you look and see, is that an officer? He confirmed it was, so I ran back in, called 911, and let them know we had an officer down, we need assistance.
A Spartanburg County deputy in the hospital tonight after being shot, responding to a domestic call. The suspect now in custody, also in the hospital after a pursuit, shootout, and manhunt this afternoon. It all started after the sheriff's office responded to a home on Chaffee Drive in Spartanburg County for a domestic-related call. It eventually ended down Anderson Mill Road, about 5 miles away outside the Keurig Dr. Pepper plant. Roads in that area were shut down, and there are multiple scenes with several investigations ongoing at this hour. Now, this was the scene along Anderson Mill Road. Then this was a look at Chaffee Road there. This is where it all started to unfold that led to that manhunt on Anderson Mill Road off 290. We're told a deputy tried to pull the suspect over after the original shooting, and that's when a shootout took place. We're told the suspect was hit, but kept on going with deputies right on his tail. This is drone video where that suspect's truck ended up crashing on the side of the road next to the Dr. Pepper plant. That area put on lockdown after he ran into the woods. We can tell you SWAT and canines quickly tracked him down. That suspect tonight identified as Dwayne Hurd. Now, we're told he was shot twice during this whole ordeal. He is right now with security watching him inside that hospital. Now, we have been on this scene since we first learned about it just after 3:30 this afternoon. Many of you reaching out to us about what in the world was going on.
And that's right. Fox Carolina's Jarvis Robertson in the neighborhood where this all started, talking to neighbors for us tonight. And Matt Koufax at the sheriff's office after an emotional press conference from Sheriff Chuck Wright.
And we want to start with Jarvis. And what are you hearing? I know you talked to people in that neighborhood, Jarvis. We can still see crime scene tape up behind you.
Yeah, Cody and Tori, still an active scene at this hour. This all, again, starting around 3:20 this afternoon, but you can see right here behind me, this is where officers are focusing their investigation. We see these crime scene techs well into the night, still taking pictures. They still have evidence markers out, gathering as much as they can for their investigation. Now, around 9:15 tonight, someone from the sheriff's office did drive that deputy's patrol car away from the scene. But as of right now, again, still active. Now, we did have a chance to speak with neighbors here in the area. They say everything that happened was pretty scary, and what happened next was even more scary. A quiet neighborhood disrupted by a gunshot.
I was in my backyard for a quick second, just checking my pool, and I was standing there. I heard a single gunshot.
Officials say a deputy was responding to a domestic violence call.
I saw the officer's car parked in the driveway. The neighbor's front door was closed, and I saw the outline of what appeared to be an officer's body laying on the porch.
Jason Smith says he called his neighbor, who also saw the deputy on the ground. Smith recalls seeing the suspect trying to get into the deputy's vehicle.
And he came back out and he tried to get into the officer's car, but it was locked. The other neighbor came out at that point and told him, hey, get down, And he turned around and pulled his rifle on my neighbor. So he went back inside.
Other neighbors tell me this is a safe neighborhood, and they're in shock too.
We normally got our kids out, on the road that we live on. They normally 6 or 8 kids out playing, so that concerned us. Yeah.
My wife, she took herself and my 2 boys to the back of the house at that point, while I stayed in here to kind of watch what was happening.
That's totally unusual for this neighborhood.
Now, here in the 10 o'clock hour, still a lot of questions that need to be answered, like who called for that domestic violence issue? Is that person okay? Again, still a lot that we're waiting to get answered. Once we get those new details, we'll be sure to pass it along to you all. We are live in Spartanburg County tonight. I'm Jarvis Robertson, Fox Carolina, the 10 o'clock news.
Jarvis, thanks. And tonight, those men and women in blue, their hearts are heavy. Even the sheriff there in Spartanburg County getting a call from the governor this afternoon.
Fox Carolina's Matt Koufax was there during that emotional press conference just within the last couple hours with Sheriff Chuck Wright.
Well, Cody, Tori, Sheriff Chuck Wright was very emotional during his press conference right where I'm standing just a short while ago. And although he didn't give any details about the condition of the deputy who was shot or release his name, he did confirm the suspect's identity and ask for prayers for their offices. And actually, if we pan up really quickly right here, we can see that the flag is being lowered to half staff in honor of that deputy right now. We're not exactly sure what that means, but you can see it is Sheriff Chuck Wright himself who is right here doing that. And we do want to take you through the day's events of what happened. The sheriff's office says they are processing 3 separate crime scenes right now. The first is the home where that deputy was shot by the suspect, now identified as a man named Dwayne Hurd. The second is a place on Highway 290 where another unnamed deputy who identified Hurd's vehicle after he fled tried to pull him over. After acting like he was going to surrender, the sheriff says Hurd opened fire. The third crime scene is the spot right in front of the Keurig Dr. Pepper plant on Anderson Mill Road, just off 290, where the suspect wrecked and was arrested. The sheriff praised his deputies for showing restraint during that news conference, even after he says Hurd fired shots at officers on 3 separate occasions. Holding back tears, Sheriff Wright told us he's proud of the deputy who was shot and called him a good man who has accomplished a lot in his 3 years with the department.
Step had been here about 3 years, is really good young man. I mean, he's just exactly what we all look for when you want somebody that does the right things and fun to be around. Good young man. He was ambushed and he was shot. I just need you to pray for him. You need to pray for his family. You need to pray for us.
The sheriff's office says the suspect Hurd was shot twice, but it's not clear if the bullets hit him at the second scene where the attempted stop was made or at the third scene of that wreck. Gunfire was exchanged both times. The deputy who pursued him was also shot at, but Sheriff Wright says that deputy was not struck, calling it a, quote, miracle that we didn't have more than one deputy injured today. Now, the sheriff says Hurd could have reached for a rifle at the final scene, but did not, which is why they were able to arrest him. He was taken to the hospital and is being guarded by deputies until he recovers and is well enough to be released into the detention center. There is no word on a court date yet. And we do want to tell you that community members have been coming by in the last hour to drop off food and other items. One woman even laying this bouquet of flowers right by the flagpole that you just saw Sheriff Chuck Wright lowering to half-mast. They are all showing solidarity for that deputy who was shot. As soon as we learn more about his condition and other details about this truly horrific scene that unfolded today, we will pass those along to you online. And